Survivor Specials, Phil and Alexa are back, and once again, I am joined by John Millsip, one of our favorite patrons, to break down the challenge. Tonight we had episode 4. It was a week in between, so we had one episode right before Christmas. We didn't have an episode before the New Year. This is actually the first podcast I'm doing in 2021. It feels good that it's 2021, all that fun stuff. But I kind of forgot a little bit what was going on in the show before we came into this week. I'm glad we have it back. I'm glad we can kind of break it down a little bit. And I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are going to be on an episode that I truly believe had very little strategy and a whole lot of gigantic egos. John, what did you think about the challenge episode 4?
I think we're really lucky everything kind of came to a close with Wes before this little break here. And we kind of got that storyline out of the way. So we got to start the storyline of everyone's playing with their emotions and not their brains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, everybody's playing with their emotions. There was the only person who's playing with their brain is Devin. And I know people might want to contradict that and say, well, you know, he's still trying to get revenge or whatever. And I loved when he listed out all 8 people he needs to get revenge on, because to me, that's just hilarious. I mean, we're at episode 4 and he already has 8 people he needs to get revenge on. But I still think he's playing with his head, because why was it so hard for them to understand that this was going to be a male elimination tonight? TJ says to them, Michi, Liv has to be pulled from the game. She's not physically able to keep going. You'll get your new partner at the next challenge. Clearly, he's not going to get a male. So why was everybody so confused that this was going to be male versus male in the actual eliminator?
I couldn't figure it out either, because as soon as TJ said that at the daily, I was like, oh, okay, clearly it's another man's elimination because we're down another female. So we need another man to go home. And apparently only Nelson was the one who thought that was an option.
And I think Devin realized it wasn't going to be, because Devin was terrified. And I mean, we can talk through what we think would have happened had Devin and Tori ended up voting differently. But Tori was so set on, like, I want to go against Amber M. I want to go against Amber M. Well, yeah, everybody wants to go against Amber M, but that doesn't mean you're going to have the opportunity to go against Amber M right now. Because how does Tori think, okay, great, I eliminate Amber M. They said Michi was going to get a partner. So there's now 2 fewer women. So Michi gets me, and then the other 2 guys are just rogue agents for at least 2 weeks, unless there's a double male. Like, it just wouldn't have made any sense. So I was trying to kind of figure out where it was going. And I don't know how much of the decision just came down to the fact of Fessy saying to Tori, I want you to put me in. I want you to put me in, when they first got to the challenge. Or if Devin really did get to her and was like, Tori, it makes literally no sense. Why in the world would we go down? And obviously, Devin having a gold skull is never going to to want to go down there.
No, absolutely. And I get why Tori wants to go in for a Hall Brawl. I get that. She's won a Hall Brawl before. She would be going up against Amber M, who, well, as Corey said during deliberation, right? Nelson's being a good partner, but ain't nobody scared of Amber M.
No.
But the fact that she wasn't thinking, oh yeah, this makes sense, it has to be a man's elimination. It just baffles me that Devin and Nelson were the only 2 who were like, it's absolutely a men's elimination.
Yeah, I'm just so confused by it. And maybe it was Tori trying to bait Devin into going down there so she'd get Devin eliminated from the game. But at this point, like, what I'm confused about is if one of them says we want to go down and the other doesn't, or if they disagree on something, are they both punished? Because as much as I think that makes sense for a reality TV show, Devin shouldn't be allowed to be punished at this point. He already has a gold skull. If he wins the right to be double agent, he shouldn't be punished and be put into that elimination just because. Like, I think that's a little sketchy, and I don't think that should really be the way that this works. How do you feel about that?
I absolutely agree, because then the strategy is partner up with the people with a gold skull. And then when you're the double agent, just stick them down anyways, because then you're either getting rid of someone with a gold skull or you're getting a gold skull yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So if the tiebreaker is, okay, well, double agents, you can't make up your mind, you're down here, it gets really awkward. So it'll be interesting to see if we get to a point where that happens, they spent a lot of time kind of like building up like it would happen. I thought it was pretty inevitable that they would agree on something in the long run, and that Tori would eventually realize, no, this doesn't make sense for me to go down right now.
Yeah.
But if they're just punishing people for voting separately, I get it if they vote for two different people, not the double agents, when they're just like voting from the pool of people to choose from, that the double agents then go down if they can't agree. But if it's, I want to go down, they don't want to go down, I don't know what's going to happen at that point.
I almost feel like what they would do is the second highest vote getter, if that makes sense. So the first highest vote getter was Amber, M, and Nelson. And I do think that the second highest was probably Jay and Theresa. So I would think that Jay and Theresa would go down there, and Jay would get walked all over probably by Nelson. No offense to Jay, but that's what I think would happen. But I don't know. It's weird because I don't think the double agents should be punished at all for being in that situation. They won whatever challenge it was they needed to win to get into that position. You cannot expect every pair of double agents to always agree. Like, that's just never going to happen. It seems like in the 36 seasons of this show, that's never been how it works. You don't always agree with your partner. That's just not going to happen. And you got to want this drama. You know, when I'm looking at Devin here, you have to want Devin to be in this show and have control. You can't want Devin to get screwed over because Tori says, no, I want to go down there, and because what she says goes. Also, that just gives entirely too much power to the person who wants to go, which I think is really unfair. I almost think it should give more power to the person who doesn't want to go. And maybe then it also says, okay, you guys have to vote for somebody else, and that's who's going to go in, or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility as well. We're going to have to wait to see if that discrepancy happens as to what the official ruling on it is. But it does make sense to me. It doesn't make sense for one person to get all of that power in that situation.
Yeah, I totally get, and especially when it's the aggressor who gets all the power. That feels incredibly unfair. I don't think the aggressor should get all the power. I think, you know, there is a strategy to not being aggressive. Why should Devin put himself at risk when he did everything he had to last week to get his gold skull and move forward in the game? And now he just has to play a strategic game. And he's clearly out there to push buttons and try to get as many people to hit him in the face as humanly possible. So I don't know how you feel about this strategy, John, but what do you think about what Devin is doing to this house right now?
He's broken the house wide open. And part of it comes from decisions made later in the episode when we get to the elimination challenge. But Devin is pushing the right buttons to make it so that the right people are irritated with each other.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Josh. I mean, obviously, I feel bad for Josh. I mean, I hope this isn't how Josh is in his real life. I mean, seriously, because I always feel bad when people go on TV and get exploited. I mean, that's the nature of reality television, unfortunately. Like, you go on there, you get exploited, and then there's craziness that goes on in the world where you're like, you know what? Maybe that's the real, like, bad people. Maybe it's not Josh who's on an MTV show. I just hope he's not like this in real life. I hope he is a little bit more cool, calm, and collected in real life, and this is being played up on TV. I know he had tweeted out a couple weeks ago that he was going through some stuff at the time. I just hope that, because he is very short-tempered. It seems like he's just quick to turn on people, kind of give people a really hard time. But I do feel for him, because I don't think he realizes like what's happening to him. And what is happening to him is he is being trolled grade A by Devin. And Devin is now going around and trolling everybody grade A. And I mean, it makes total sense. He gets under Amber M's skin because he knows that she's thin-skinned, to get Nelson to come at him in hopes that there will either be physical confrontation, or people will say, well, maybe we should get rid of Nelson and Amber M, because if it's a girls' elimination, we want to get rid of Amber M. I can beat her. Or if it's Nelson, sure, whatever. He's a big threat anyway. We got to get rid of him at some point.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's just instigating the right pressure points to make it so that people look at others as either threats, non-threats, or just people who it makes more sense to get out of the house because people just aren't getting along with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many people did he list? Was he talking to Kyle? He was talking to CT.
No, CT.
CT. So he's talking to CT.
8
Go ahead. Do you remember who they were? Because I couldn't keep track. It went so fast.
They were the Big Brother people. So anyone who's ever played on Big Brother.
Okay, so list those out for people who haven't watched Big Brother, such as maybe your podcast co-host.
So I did miss one of them, but we have Josh and Fessy, Casey, Amber B,
Okay.
Plus, we had Amber M, Darrell, and Leroy. And then I did miss the 8th person.
Would it have been Cam, maybe?
Potentially, because for the most part, it does look just like the people that the Big Brother people are paired up with. And
yeah,
then Leroy,
it was probably Cam then, unless it was Corey. But I don't think he would have thrown Corey out there, considering he's with Tori. So, yeah, that's probably right. But it's just funny. He listed all that, and CT goes, "That's 8 people," and he's like, "Yeah, I mean that's all."
Yeah.
And it was so good because, but at the same point, like in a show like this, I mean, when you look at the people who are out there, Amber M, Jay, and Devin, I feel like have no chance when they walk out there. Like they really don't, because you watch this hall brawl today. I felt my collarbone shatter when they hit each other. And like, I think about this, I could be on this show. Like there are plenty of those things. The thing that Natalie Anderson did the first challenge, I could do. That challenge that Wes and Devin did last week, I could do. But if I had to do this against Fessy, just pick up my mushed up body and put me into wherever you need to put me to get me on a helicopter home, because I'm not going to be able to physically do it. So like when I look at them, I'm like, how are they going to be able to pull this off? Jay even says earlier in the episode, I don't want to become that guy. I don't want to be that guy who everybody's like, ooh, I can just beat him. He's kind of the Amber M of all that. But like, is Devin's strategy here the best way to possibly play it here? As annoyed as some other people might be on the internet, is this the best way to do it?
He's flying as if he has like no way to lose now that he has this gold skull, which he doesn't, especially as long as Tori still wants her gold skull. But yeah, in all honesty, he's getting other people to go after each other. And that's exactly what he needed, because he was, with Wes gone, there's no more focus on like these X-winners, despite the fact that CT and Darnell are still and Darrell are still in the house. But then you have, so Devin was this big target from the last episode, and he's just caused enough friction between people that he's kind of fading into the background now.
Yeah. Yeah, and everybody's going to be mad at Devin. But what I thought was great tonight was when Josh is going at Jay, Josh has a new target now. And that's where, like, again, I hope that this isn't how Josh is in his real life, because if he is, then that's an issue. But if this is just him on a TV show and whatever point or whatever he was at his life, it seems like he just wants to pick on the smallest guy there so he can get his gold skull and feel like a macho man. But at the end of the day, I mean, I know Jay personally. Like, I've met Jay. Jay will give anybody shit. Jay's not scared of anybody. Like, and that's just the kind of guy he is. Like, when he started going back at him and was doing that, I was actually impressed, because, like, I feel like if he wasn't actually somewhat friendly with Josh, he might have pushed him the way Devin pushed him. And when you're that easy to push, people are going to come for you who know that they have no challenge or no chance to beat you in a really physical challenge. The only physical challenge I can beat Josh in is if he punches me in the freaking face. That's the only physical challenge I can beat him in.
Yeah, and that's just what it comes down. That entire confrontation between Josh and Jay made no sense. We had Josh mention earlier in the episode how he can't trust Jay, and we're not really given any context for it at all. It's kind of just like Josh's gut feeling, from my understanding of it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there really is any context why.
And then, Josh gets a few drinks in him and comes at Jay. And Casey's sitting right there, one of Josh's closest allies, telling him, Jay's good. Like, he's with me. He's good. And Josh just was like, okay, so we're voting in Theresa and Jay, right? And it makes no sense.
No.
And it, again, just goes to show how Josh thinks with his emotions.
He's trying to shake Casey's hand right in front of Jay, saying we're going to put Jay and Theresa in.
Yeah.
The social ineptitude there is absolutely unparalleled. Like, there is just nothing going through his brain there. And look, I get he's drinking or he's doing whatever, and maybe he's got something going on, so his mind's just not all that. But holy shit, like, what are you doing? Like, Jay is right there. And not for nothing, like, you can't walk all over anybody in this thing, because they're on an MTV show. And these are, I mean, 24 people, 30 people who are on this season. These are egos, and that's just the way it goes. I mean, reality TV, you're not going to go on a reality TV show if you don't have an ego, because why are you going to put yourself on TV if you don't think you deserve to be on TV? But to do that to somebody like Jay, you're asking for the horns. Like, and I get Josh could beat up Jay, but in a lot of things, Jay could probably beat Josh. Not in a hall brawl, but in anything that requires any type of finesse, Josh is a bull in a china shop. He ain't figuring that out at all.
Yeah, exactly. And Jay even tried to diffuse the situation right there. He's like, listen, let's just sit down, just the two of us right here. Let's talk this out because there's no need for us to be going at each other. And then Josh just decides to leave right away. Like, this isn't going to be something Jay's going to easily forget. And it's going to come back and bite Josh in the ass later on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even when he was after he found out that Fessy was getting put in and he's like, come on. And Nani finally cut him out. And he was like, I got pumped up for this. Like, I did what I'm like, did you pregame like Lawrence Taylor used to pregame? Like, is that how you pregame? Then you're worried the effects are going to wear off? Like, what's going on here? Like, because it just seems so irrational. And when Nani is standing next to him and being like, would you cut the shit? And everybody's like, what is wrong with you? And also, Devin hates your guts. Why is he going to give you a shot to win the one challenge that was built for you? The only way he was going to give you that shot is if Fessy and Anissa had been voted in. Then, yeah, he'd have no problem putting you up there against Fessy because the two of you would butt heads, and good luck to whoever wins. They deserve it. And the second strongest person in the house is gone.
No, exactly. Like, I understand why Josh was mad about it because he thought it was going to be him. And one of his best friends betrayed him and went in instead. But like, he just needs to understand that, like, Devin's doing what's best for his game, and what's best for his game is not giving Josh an easy way to the final.
Yeah, I feel like Devin might be the only person who's doing what's best for his game. I think Tori did that tonight. I think she came to the realization. I think Devin really talked her into it and was like, look, this is dumb. You're not going in there. There's no way they're putting Amber M as one of the people in a hall brawl. I know that they've done female hall brawls before, but they have to know like who's up there and what they're thinking about and stuff like that. I doubt they're like, great, let's have Amber M versus Tori so we can watch Amber M's body. It reminds me of Survivor Gabon when Jackie's in that stupid little raft and she can't get it to paddle anywhere. And she's literally just sitting in it with the thing over her lap while her team is trying to perform. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. So like he had to have known. I think Tori knew. And I really think those are the only two people who did what was best for their game. I think Jay did ultimately because Jay was able to kind of, diffuse the whole situation. But what's going on between Corey and Fessy, and then Fessy decides I'm actually going to leave Anissa and I'm going to take Casey because I think it made him feel safer. Now Casey is screwed. Leroy goes with Anissa. I think both of them are in a lot of trouble. And then you have Amber M and Michi, which is now you might as well just cover them in bacon grease and throw them into a pit of hungry wolves because they are destroyed right now. They have no shot in hell. It just felt like it was pure chaos tonight for no reason.
Absolutely. And I mean, Michi lost Liv, got Amber M. It's a pretty even exchange for the most part from what we've seen so far. But, I mean, Amber M lost a way stronger partner in Nelson to get stuck with Michi in the end. So it was bad for her. Casey gets dragged down by Fessy having the entire house mad with him. Like, if he had any chance, he needed to just stay with Anissa. He was like, nah, I'm just going to take Casey. And it's like, okay, now the rest of the house that wasn't mad at you is mad at you. So I don't know what was going on here. There was zero strategy. It's going to be really interesting to see how things play out in the future because I don't even know who's aligned with who anymore.
Yeah. And I think that's also what makes it fun and a little bit frustrating from a viewer perspective is I don't understand why they made a lot of the decisions that they made, but I do also feel like, we're pretty much starting over. And for me, and it's because I mean, think of it what you will, everybody, but the person I see myself the most in is Devin. It really is. He's small. He's got no chance in hell. So he goes out there and he trolls everybody. I mean, when he was talking to Amber M, Amber M, my now fiance, turns to me and she's like, wow, he really is you. And I was like, all right, well, you agreed to marry this. So like, that's your problem now. But it's just funny because not that I would be like outwardly rude, but if you know you can get under somebody's skin and they really don't want to defend themselves at all, or they'd rather just get mad at you, that's all you can do. And his whole goal was to get Amber to go and tell Nelson and have Nelson come back. Good. I'm glad that kind of chaotic little finger energy is still going to be on the show. I don't need 20 Fessies and Nelsons and Corys and Joshes. I want the chaotic behind the scenes people. I mean, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan. I like Jon Snow just as much as anybody, even though it doesn't seem like it because I just called him Jon Stark. I like Jon Snow, Robb Stark, Ned Stark, all those people, Jamie, whatever. But it's Littlefinger. It's the behind the scenes Varys, the manipulators. Those are the people you want to keep going. And why do the seasons start to get bad? Because they start disappearing in air quotes. I want Devin on this show for as long as I have to do this podcast because I think he's phenomenal TV and he causes drama that some of these other people just can't bring.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's done. He caused enough of a division that even when we did go into the vote today, Nelson and Amber only had 12 votes.
12, I know.
That's less than half the House. So there was enough of division in the House on who to vote for that they got voted in with a plurality tonight.
I'm glad you caught that because I thought that was very interesting. And I'm sure other people notice, like if you're really looking for it, and probably the people who are listening to a podcast that we just started doing the challenge, they probably noticed too. But I wrote that down. 12 votes out of 25. That's a really crazy move this early in the game, I feel like. And I think it was Tori who said it was mostly their friends. And if you looked at it, and maybe it was just because of where they were positioned, and I read left to right and down, up to down. Yeah. But it looked like it was mostly women who voted for Amber M and Nelson. And I think that had a lot to do with they were hoping it was going to be a female elimination because we have watched 3 straight episodes now of male eliminations.
Yeah, and I think they were just so intent on this idea. It has to be a women's elimination. A woman hasn't been eliminated recently. It has to be that none of them were thinking logically about the fact that it was obviously going to be a male elimination.
And I wouldn't be surprised now if they do a women and then maybe a duel and then a women or a duel and then a women because they do want the women to compete in this show because the problem now is you have 3 skulls for men and 1 skull for women. The only woman with a skull is Natalie Anderson. The other women haven't had a chance to compete for that skull. That's not their fault. So they are going to want this to start happening, but it was just so apparent tonight. How are you going to do this? There's no way. They'll figure it out later on down the road. They can't help that, these 2 people got eliminated because of injury, both both off the same stupid challenge that we both said last week was a stupid challenge.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and it's totally valid because it has changed the course of this season. It's made it so that because we've had all these men go up against each other, we've had different people butt different heads with each other. And it's really come out that these Big Brother people are kind of in a bad spot right now. Yeah.
Which I'm kind of all about. Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, I don't really know the Big Brother people that well. That's like my least favorite of all of those. John, it seems like you're out for a second. I'm assuming
I'm back.
There he is. He's back. He's back. But you cut for a second. That's all right. It doesn't seem like you were cut out. I think I heard your whole thought. But I'm okay with the Big Brother people like going and having chaos because there's so many of them. I don't want this to turn into Big Brother. Like I want this to be a different thing. I want this to be that. And I think next week, I think what we're going to see is Michi and Amber M probably taking on one of the people that has a Big Brother in their pairing. Because I don't think I think next week people know it's going to be a female pairing, and I think they're going to try to split up maybe the Big Brothers in some way or another. And who's going to go after Devin when it's going to be female oriented at least in some way? Because it doesn't seem like people really want Tori to go home.
No, and that's also what it comes down to. We also heard Tori say, "I want to get the rookies out of here." So. Definitely, after this whole thing with Cam pushing for the winners to be gone, we've slidden right back into the old challenge notion of let's get rookies out of here. So Amber M in a bad spot. Michi's in a bad spot because he's paired with Amber M. The only rookies that don't seem to be getting much of a target are Lolo and Nam, who seem to be really tight with a lot of people and in a really good spot in this game, despite the fact that we didn't really see them today, other than in that first challenge. But that's probably a good thing for their game.
Yeah, and Leo's not in a bad spot either. And I don't know who the other rookies are because I have a hard time keeping. I mean, there's still 24 people left, which blows my mind. Because by this point, I'm used to we're merging. There's 10. Great. I know everybody pretty well. There's still so many people left. But Leo, I love that Leo's kind of getting this like sane competitor look where like he's brushing his teeth while the fight between Nelson and I think it was the fight between Nelson, or maybe it was later on in the night, but there's a fight going on and he's brushing his teeth. Like, he's getting a really fun edit, and I really like him. And yeah, Lolo and Nam, it seems like they've had absolutely zero problem fitting in with people. Seems like people just straight up like them. And I also think people are terrified of both of them and don't want to go up in a challenge against them. Like, nobody wants to go up against Nam in tonight's challenge. Get out of here.
No. And that's just really what it comes down to, is some of these rookies have put themselves in really good spots, especially for rookie pairings, right? Because Leo's partner is still Gabby, who's another rookie. And so that's a big thing. But for some reason, like, they kind of slid into the background here. Nelson even was talking with Corey about how it was such a bad choice to be paired with Amber, just because she was a rookie. And it was like, it didn't come back to bite him early on in the game, so maybe he could have gotten there, but it eventually comes up. The rookies have to go.
Well, and I think it's also the fact that it was the weakest rookie you could possibly be with. I mean, Amber M is clearly the weakest one out there, and so I think that was just going to end up hurting him at some point. So it happens. Nelson goes. What did you think about how this challenge was actually run, though? Because it seemed like everybody was saying how dirty it was, and then even TJ says at the end, like, we're not going to do dirty this time. Why didn't they bend him out of this challenge? Ben Browning, for anybody who doesn't watch Survivor. Why didn't they Ben Browning him out of this challenge?
Because it wasn't getting to the point where it was too dirty, I think. I think it was just getting to this point where it's like, okay, you can't be picking him up and throwing him down. That's kind of excessive. You can't be lifting his mask and sticking your hand in his face, because that's dangerous.
Yeah.
But it wasn't getting to the point where it was like, okay, you're intentionally hurting him.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that's just what it came down to. He wasn't going quite far enough for it to be considered like DQ level, but he was still being enough so that TJ had to call him out on it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I was waiting for him to start trying to twist his leg or something, because as soon as that happens, I think they kick him out. If he starts trying to twist his knee, you're going to tear an ACL, MCL, something like that. If he starts trying to twist the ankle, that's when I think they would have probably booted him from the entire thing. And I'm sure they have security all over the place, but I thought it was crazy when he started ripping off the mask and stuff. I'm like, damn, let him rip your whole helmet off and just bite him as hard as you can. I mean, seriously, at that point, if he's going to be like that, again, I'm going back to my Devin school of thinking, but if he's going to be like that, you got to do whatever you got to do. And if he's going to start ripping your mask off and trying to poke you in the eyes or something, just bite him as hard as you can. I mean, screw that. I don't have any time for that. So I'm fine with Fessy winning it. I don't really have a problem. I wasn't connected to Nelson in any way, shape, or form. I didn't really know anything about him. I'm fine with Fessy winning. But the testosterone levels on this show right now are just absolutely absurd, and it's taking over. Like, the women are barely on this. When we talked about this episode 1, I was like, Cam is a lot. Right now, I'm like, where's Cam? I miss Cam. Give me more Cam, because I feel like all we're watching is the men just have these ego trip testosterone battles that I'm like, why do I like? That's why, again, I go back to, like, keep Devin in the game, because as much as he's instigating, it's a different kind of instigating. Jay, it's a different kind of gameplay. Nam is a different kind of player. CT is a different kind of player. But, like, this whole, like, just testosterone bubble that is getting up to the surface here, I'm like, oh my God, how much longer until it just bursts so we can watch somebody else play?
I think we're starting to get there, because nobody liked how Fessy handled this tonight. Nobody liked that Fessy would win against his friend in an elimination and took him out of the challenge and lost him as a friend, from the sounds of it. Yeah. No one liked the fact that he was playing dirty. So any point of redemption Fessy had from getting his gold skull today was totally thrown out the window by the way he played that elimination.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who tries to take that gold skull away from him, because now that he has it, and now that he just paired up with Casey, I think he's trying to protect himself there. But I also think that you might get somebody who just says, you know what, throw me in there with him. I think Josh might be that guy, with how crazy it seems like Josh has gone. Josh and Fessy might end up going head to head at some point coming up, and then boom, we have a really, really big battle, and good. I'm here for it. I mean, I really am, because again, it's probably why I didn't watch MTV shows in the first place, and why I kind of steered away from it. There's a lot of the same character on this. When you watch a show like Survivor, you'll have two strong, really big, buff guys, but there's a big difference between Nick Morano and Cole Metters. Those are two very different people, even though they're both built massively. You know what I mean? So here, though, it's starting to feel a little samey. It's starting to feel like, oh, okay, cool, get it, got it, moving on. Okay, move on. Like, I get it. So that's just how I feel about that.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, because that is how they've been casting some of these characters lately. They haven't been casting these more strategic players. That's why it's great to see a Devin and a Kyle on the season and a Jay on the season, because they are going to approach it more strategically. But they still bulk it up with our Fessies and our Joshes. Someone who I think is going to come after Fessy is Corey.
Agreed.
Nelson and Corey are best friends. And Nelson gave up his game for Corey last year. Corey is not going to sit by after what Fessy just did.
Yeah. Well, and I think, too, because Corey's paired up with Natalie Anderson, I think Natalie's okay pretty much going against any of the girls in this thing. I think her biggest challenge in a physical competition would probably be Anissa. I don't know who's going to compete with her in an endurance-based challenge. I really don't. I think she's going to compete. I think she'd beat them. I think she beat every woman out there. So I think that Corey has a little wiggle room there where, like, if him and Natalie were to be the double agents, I could see Natalie being like, okay, fine, I'll go down there with you. Because even if it is, I'll let this happen. I would love to watch Fessy and Corey go at it. I think that would be fantastic. I want to watch them all go at it. I mean, but again, it's funny because even though we've watched 3 male challenges, Wes, I feel like we lost something. I don't feel like we really lost anything with Joseph. And then tonight with Nelson, I don't feel like I knew Nelson. So I feel like we've made no headway on the chaos that is still out there.
Yeah, I agree. And part of that comes down from the way that the challenge is edited. Because we do see these characters over and over again, they kind of feel sometimes we don't need like the reintroduction to Nelson. We got the Corey Nelson storyline from last season mentioned again tonight.
And who gave up their spot for who?
Nelson gave up his spot for Corey. Nelson volunteered to go into elimination right before the final so that Corey could run the final.
Got it. So that's why this is even more devastating for Nelson, because he went right at the end last time.
And he lost in a hall brawl last time, too.
Ooh, to who?
I can't remember at the moment. But
it's nobody on this season?
No.
Okay.
No one on the season.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so that's why it's even more devastating. That makes sense. I did, though, what I did like, though, and you know, I don't know, you were talking about we don't need the reintroduction or anything like that. Then I guess we've never heard Big T's backstory before. I guess this is the first time. I thought Big T's backstory was a good human moment, and I feel like that's very rare on this show. I feel like we don't really get human moments. So I was very happy to see Big T get her human moment where she was talking about her parents, how they both died when she was very, very young. And then Devin is actually able to kind of bond with her because he says he also lost, you know, I forget if it was his mother or his dad, it was his father. So he was able to say, like, my father died when I was young. And, you know, so like he's able to kind of bond there. And then immediately he starts ripping on Amber M and pretty much tells her to go the hell to bed. But it's just, I did like Big T's backstory here. I like that they left that in. And I do think that that's left in purposely between Big T and Devin, especially if we haven't heard this story from Big T in the past, or that Devin's dad died or something along those lines. Because if we haven't heard that before, I feel like that means it comes to fruition this time, because there's no way those things have not come up on their previous seasons at one point or another.
Yeah. And then we've also been seeing this trend with Big T becoming more and more of a commenter on a lot of things too. She had quite a few confessionals today where she's just chiming in on the things that are happening. She mentioned early on in the episode that Tori and Anissa are incredibly tight and that it's something that they need to be aware of moving forward and pay attention to, right? So Big T is kind of sitting there as this character who they're really setting up to have this bigger storyline in this season.
That's what I'm thinking too. I feel like Big T is very much like in this for the long haul, which is weird because I'm still waiting to see like when is Big T really going to like do something, you know, outside of just being a fun narrator. I mean, she had, what was the backdrop where she was like over the water, pretty much telling Josh to be Zen or telling somebody to be Zen because they weren't being Zen at all. So I mean, it seems like, I totally agree with you. It seems like she's here for a long, long time, and she's paired up with CT. CT really took a back seat this week in terms of where he's been in the early episodes.
Yeah, except for his recitation of the Konami code today to prove that he knows what video games are.
Yes,
CT
I did
kind of take that back seat today.
I did appreciate that.
Yeah, but yeah, Big T's a character who I really enjoy Big T as a character, and I just really want to see what she can do as a challenge competitor still. Mm-hmm. But if this is the content we're getting, we're going to see something from her this season.
I totally agree. Yeah, and I mean, I feel like out of all the women on the show, I'd say Cam was really big at the beginning. Cam and Natalie were like the two biggest at the beginning. I'd say Big T is the one who's really carried through the entire time. Who I really feel like I know really, really, really well. Let's talk about this drone challenge real quick, because boy, was it real quick. I do like TJ, how he just makes fun of all of them. Was this a total waste of time?
I think they anticipated them being better at flying drones. And it was ridiculous that 11 of the 12 teams got disqualified.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't fly a drone. And they kind of made this big deal of it being down this long lava tube or whatever.
It was right
there.
But
it was right there. You could see the drone the entire time. There is no reason you should have been crashing that thing as frequently as they were crashing them.
Well, because even with Lolo and Nam, they flew past the sign.
Yeah. People just could not fly these drones. And luckily, Tori and Devin were able to figure out how to actually fly a drone and communicate with each other. Because despite the fact that they hate each other so much, because that was really the impression we were getting through that challenge with the way they were communicating with each other, was that they really hate each other.
How much are they milking this for the camera?
Oh, they're totally milking this. There is no way. It was just playful banter between the two of them.
That's what I thought too. I mean, that's like old school flirting is what it felt like to me. Like the way they're saying, if I could take every attribute from you and put it in another woman, or when she's like, he's really good at this stuff. I just wish it was anybody but him.
Yeah.
It's total I mean, it's like fifth grade, I don't like whoever you make fun of the most is who you have a crush on. Like, it is funny, and I think they're totally playing it up. And I also think that whole thing at the end was a lot more dramatic on TV than it was in real life. I don't think that Tori was ever really pushing all that hard to go in there, unless she really thought it was going to be a female thing. I don't think she really wanted Devin to go all that much, because at the end of the day, if you have somebody like Devin on your side, he's a pretty easy person to dump at any point. And if you go into a challenge and you win that challenge because you do think you're one of the strongest women out there, which I think she is, then you can just leave him whenever you want. Like, you don't need him to go home, and he has a gold skull. So make sure that somebody you want to get the gold skull is getting the gold skull, not Nelson.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we even saw it beforehand when they were getting the votes revealed to them. Devin said right there, we just need to agree to make the best move for our game. So I don't think there was really much of a call when it came to whether or not they should go down. It was milked out a ton. And it was really emphasized afterwards where Tori confirms that Devin was right. And it's like, we knew he was right because we could figure out what was happening here.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Devin kind of reminds me of Tyson, Survivor reference there, but it kind of reminds me of that where, like, if you hate him, do you hate him? Yeah. But if you can get along with it and buy into what he's putting down, you don't get bothered by it at all. And in fact, you find your Courtney, or you find your Jervis, or you find your Monica, who would just kind of go with it and has really no problem with it. And I kind of feel like that's Devin's thing here. And I feel like Tori, it does have more of a personality than we're being led to believe. And she is a lot more sarcastic, and she is just such a gamer that it's like, fine, if you're going to be the brains and I'm going to be the brawn, let's do this thing. Like, let's see how many of these things we can really win, so we have the most control ever. Because if they can just be, calm the entire time and just win these challenges, if they do start to become more mental, there you go. It's over. Yeah. I mean, I will say this, though. Is Tori going to be holding Devin next week? Seems like all the men are holding all the women over that like ravine or whatever. But is it going to be Tori holding Devin? Because, I mean, seriously, there could be an argument to be made here that Tori is stronger than Devin.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see exactly how it goes, if they get a choice in the matter or not.
Yeah, because from a strategic standpoint, I'm telling you, like, I mean, it looked like Devin had okay lower body strength, but he doesn't have much upper body strength. There's no way. I bet he hasn't picked up a weight yet while he's been there. All right. I'm gonna bounce around some of these things because if there's anything we haven't touched on, we can get to them. But I want to bounce around some of these teams. We talked a lot about Devin and Tori here. We both think that this is being blown out of proportion a lot, that they don't hate each other as much. Obviously, they don't love each other. I did like when Devin said to her, "You get 3, I get 3. We go from there." And they defended their 3, the blah, blah, blah. And she wanted to protect Anissa. Am I right on that? She wanted to, but it would have been like her 4th name. And essentially by going against Amber M and what you knew was a hall brawl, you are protecting Anissa.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's one. Natalie and Corey. Now, we obviously the Corey Nelson drama is there from previous seasons, but I haven't watched previous seasons. So as far as I'm concerned, Corey's crocodile tears there were crocodile tears. I know that they're real tears, but for me, I'm like, I don't care. I don't know why he's doing that. It feels phony to me. What do we think about them moving forward? And do we think that there's going to be more to them? Natalie has taken a big, big back seat since joining with Corey.
Natalie's in such a fantastic position right now because she has taken that back seat. It's really great to see because Natalie is one of those people we do want to see go further into this season because she will eventually cause that drama, but she doesn't need to cause it this early. She had her ounces of drama when she was partnered with Wes. She is Corey now. Looks like Corey's going to be starting some drama next week because I think he feels very betrayed by Fessy right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that, like the repercussions from that play out moving forward. But right now, they're a strong team. They're in a decent spot with enough allies throughout the house. And it doesn't seem like it's all allies in the same alliance with each other either, because it's not like they're only paired with the Big Brother people. They kind of seem to have their foot in both sides of the house right now. So I think they're in a pretty good spot as long as Corey doesn't blow up this thing with Fessy too much.
That's what I'm worried about. I think Natalie's in the best spot in the house. I think Natalie's like a shoe. I almost feel like she's a shoe-in for the final at this point, unless like right before the final, somebody tries to take her down to get her gold skull because it's really like the last resort. But I feel like she's kind of a shoe-in. Again, I don't really know how much Corey's going to blow it up. I don't really know his personality because I haven't heard much from him, but it seems like we're about to get a lot more from him now that Nelson is gone.
Yeah.
Lolo and Nam, quiet episode tonight. They could not fly the drone at all. Their love story has taken a back seat, although Lolo did say Nam, just like every other guy, doesn't listen to her.
Yeah.
We still feeling like they're in the best position out of all of the rookies, or no?
Absolutely. I don't think it's even questionable at this point because I think they seem to be treated not like rookies. And part of that comes down from how strong of a team they are. But I think part of it comes down from the fact that Lolo does have connections with the Big Brother people through Celebrity Big Brother, and she has connections with some of the challenge people through the competitions there too. So they're in a good spot, and I think they're also likable, and that's a big thing. Nam isn't getting into all this drama like these other guys are, and that's just the best strategy right now in this house. It's just let everyone else fight, sit back. You can get your gold skull whenever the dust is settled.
Yeah, absolutely. And that seems to be what their mentality is. And I just think Nam is just a calmer person than there. He think he's very good looking, very physically fit guy. That helps. But I don't think he's not the big personality, which is nice. I like that. Nam takes a back seat on an episode where I'm glad he did. CT and Big T, we talked about how much we like Big T. What do we think about CT now that he is teamed up with Big T? Do you think it's been beneficial for him?
I think it's been beneficial because Big T's not a target for any reason. No. Yes, she's weaker, but she's not the weakest woman out there still. Mm-hmm. So I think it is beneficial for CT. I think they work well together from what we've seen so far as well. And hopefully it continues because I love having CT on my television screen.
Yeah, I agree. I really like CT. I'm a big fan there. So Kyle and Cam. Kyle, we saw laughing at Devin as he was antagonizing Amber M tonight. Didn't see much from Cam. What are we thinking about them?
We didn't really get to see much after the switch from when Kyle took Cam as a partner. And maybe that means they're just siding to the background. Cam is one of those people who's kind of connected to the Big Brother people because she was originally with them. And she also went after those winners early on. So she does kind of have a target. So the best thing for her to do now, flip on the Big Brother people. Mm-hmm. Let them take the brunt of everything here. Get the rookies and the Big Brother people out. They'll be fine. And Kyle is just too likable.
Yeah, I agree. Kyle is hilarious. Kyle is the subdued version of Devin,
Mhm.
which is great. You
Yeah.
know, it's nice to have that too. Theresa and Jay, it looked like Jay was in a little bit of trouble there for a little bit, mainly just because it seems like Josh wants his gold skull. Jay doesn't want to become that guy where people start targeting him just to get their skull so they can run the final. What do you think about their chances moving forward?
It's really interesting that we were given that conversation about not being that guy.
Mhm.
Because that kind of seems like something that's edited. It didn't really pay off in this episode other than Josh going at him, but we kind of knew at that point it's like, no, that's not happening.
Mhm.
So unless they were trying to build that tension there that Jay might get nominated this week, it's something that we're probably going to have to look out for in the future, where Jay is eventually going to be that guy who gets thrown into eliminations as the easy gold skull winner.
Yeah, and I wonder if he's going to be that easy though, because like when I look, I mean, some of these challenges, obviously, he's not going to win a hall brawl against a lot of these guys, but in terms of just like, you know, anything that's somewhat mental, I feel like he's got to have an edge over a lot of these guys. And then anything that's, you know, more endurance based, I feel like he'd have an edge over a lot of these guys. So I'm kind of surprised that they're looking at him the way that they're looking at him. But again, I think it's, you know, big bear sees mouse. You know what I mean? Like, I really think it just comes to that where like Jay's just the smallest one there who they also know. Like, he's not Michi, who's new and they don't really know. And it's like, good if we want to do rookie, sure. But like, I think also Survivor brings a name with it that makes people paranoid about you.
Yeah, I agree. But like, look, if you look at Jay, his elimination record is 2-1. Like, he won 2 eliminations last year. And then you have someone like Josh who's 0-4 in eliminations.
It's so crazy to me.
Right.
And were they all physical, or like what were like Josh's, some of the things he was getting eliminated in, or like were they endurance based? Like, what was it?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen any of his eliminations yet.
Okay.
But the fact of the matter is he's still lost 4 eliminations and hasn't won one yet.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking at that, that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at, hey, Jay's this small guy, we can beat him. I'm looking at Jay's won 2 eliminations, but Fessy's lost 4. Those are 2, or not Fessy, sorry.
Josh
has lost 4. Like, those are 2 very different results.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know anything about Theresa right now. I feel like Theresa's there. And I honestly thought when Nani was talking, that was Theresa. And then they showed Theresa at the end. And I was like, oh, what's up? New person. Glad to see you're on the show. Like, I have no read on Theresa at all right now. Leo and the heartthrob Gabby, who has been smitten by, this is a joke, obviously, by Fessy. Fessy has no game, as we're being told here. He has absolutely nothing to offer to poor Gabby. What do we think about Gabby and Leo, though? Both have been really under the radar for rookies.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of targeted that first week. They were the rookies that were names that were put out there in the first week. But since then, we haven't seen much of them. They're not the strongest of the rookie teams, but they're not the weakest of the rookie teams either. So I think they're in a decent spot right now, and it'll just depend what happens with this Big Brother conflict.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen Leo like scale the wall in the hall brawl. Like, rather than even tackling somebody, like him like do some weird, you know, wrestling move and just go up the wall and get over it. I think that would have been epic. But I do think Leo is kind of like Nam, where I think he's a little bit more relaxed than everybody else. And I think people really like that about him. And then I think Gabby, like, being that it seems like the guys are becoming infatuated with her. Good. That works. Yeah. Awesome. You're going to be a little bit safer now because they're not going to want to put you into elimination because they're going to want you to stay, even though you're clearly one of the weaker still there. Josh and Nani, we talk a lot about Josh. Nani, we don't talk really much about at all. What's going on with Nani?
Nani's just trying to Nani is trying to play under the radar.
Yeah.
But Josh is not letting her, and I think it's starting to get to her. And we saw that in the elimination where she's like, you need to be quiet. So it'll be really interesting to see if Nani does get a chance to leave Josh, how quickly she takes it.
Oh, she would do it. I think she would do it in the snap of a finger. I mean, I think it's the smart move too. I think that Josh is a ticking time bomb. And the last thing you want is a team elimination. And I don't even know if those happen. Look, I keep saying it. I don't know if those are even going to happen. But in case it does, You don't want to be paired up with Josh the first time there's a team elimination and go, oh God, now everybody hates him. Now I'm screwed. And now we're going up against Natalie and Corey. Like, how am I going to like that? You don't want that. So I agree. She's trying to play under the radar, but man, Josh is just making that literally impossible to do.
Absolutely. It will be interesting to see how Nani navigates it. She does have close connections with Casey, who's also in a bad spot now. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, and we'll get to Casey in a sec. I want to finish out the last of the remaining teams, and then we'll get to the 3 new ones. But Darrell and Partner, how do we feel about Darrell and Partner?
Are they on the season? Like,
what he's going? I'm calling
today. That was kind of the first time he's been mentioned, and Amber B is just kind of there.
I feel really bad, and I know Darrell has played before, but I feel bad with Amber B because. Who are you? Like, what? It's blowing my mind. And I think I said in the first episode that in my own personal taste, I'm like, oh, Amber B is the best looking woman on this season. She's probably going to get plenty of screen. She's getting nothing. And then you have like somebody like BT or Big CT and Big T. You have Big T, who is kind of like taking over the role that I thought Amber would have played. And Big T is getting the look how adorable I am, look how good looking, look at all these fun things I say. But I feel like Amber, we have does she have a personality? I'm sure she does. She wouldn't be cast on reality TV over and over again if she didn't, but I'm getting absolutely nothing from her. And then Darrell, I'm like, cool, you tell me all these great things about him. I can't wait to see him on my TV screen.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing here is we're just playing the waiting game, seeing where things break for them. Because Amber played Big Brother, it's put her in a bad spot. Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And I think she could be somebody too who people go after maybe next week to try to get rid of a Big Brother player. And the women think, I can beat Amber. I can get Amber out of this game. All right, we got 3 new teams tonight because of everything that went down with Michi losing Liv, and then Fessy deciding, I don't want to be with Anissa anymore. What do we think about Fessy choosing Casey, and now Fessy and Casey as a team?
What an awful decision to make.
Awful.
On every account. First off, why did you leave Anissa? Second off, why did you leave Anissa after saying, someone was going to take me away from her anyways? And why did you leave her for Casey so that you're lessening your impact on the house? It made no sense.
So ridiculous. He literally just backed himself into a corner and said, hey, if you guys want to target us, just target us. We might win, but we could also lose. Like, it's so crazy, especially after what went down with him trying to get into the challenge so that he could win, so that he could beat Nelson because it was built for him, all of that. To give up Anissa and say what he did, it's like, man, that is social awareness 101. You never say, I'm so good, everybody was just going to come for me anyway. You never say that. You just don't do that in any point. I mean, even if you're the star quarterback, if you're Tom Brady wasn't going around when him and Bill Belichick were fighting all the time and saying, well, somebody's going to take me anyway. Somebody's going to take, like, you don't do that. And for him to do that to Anissa, who is very well respected in this house, is just so blatantly just no social awareness there. I couldn't believe he did that. I couldn't believe the way it went down. Can't wait to see what happens. I think Fessy and Casey are probably going to be going into eliminations very, very shortly if this Devin, Kyle, CT kind of alliance that is an alliance and also isn't starts to come to fruition, because I think they're just going to start destroying them.
Yeah, I agree, because they seem to be the only ones who are using their brains. And while everyone else is being emotional, the one thing you really want on your side is people who are thinking strategically.
Absolutely. The weakest of the pairs, we believe, Michi and Amber M. Any hope for Michi and Amber M?
No. I would be astonished if they are not the house vote next week.
I would too.
It would have to be like this major blow up where someone gets someone really mad at them. But I don't think there's any way it's not Amber and Michi next week. They're just there for the picking.
Yeah, and whoever goes against them, I think, is going to beat them really, really bad. Sean McInerney? I don't know. McInerney. He says, but who wants to go into elimination against Fessy and Casey? Who do you think would go into elimination against Fessy and Casey? Or do you think Fessy and Casey will just start to become the double agent vote over and over and over again, especially now that Fessy actually has a gold skull?
Corey and Natalie.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a team that easily can go up against the two of them. Easily. matches them pretty equally on strengths. And Corey has a beef with Fessy.
Yeah.
So that would be who I would expect to go in against those two.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then finally, the last team, Leroy ends up picking Anissa rather than Amber M. What an outlandish decision. I can't believe he did such a thing. What do we think about this new pairing, though, of Leroy and Anissa?
I think it's really good for Leroy. I think it's really good for Anissa. I think it worked out for both of them. Neither of them are tied with Big Brother people anymore. Mm-hmm. Neither of them have a weak partner. Mm-hmm. And in extension, it's good for Cam because now Cam's getting in more with Anissa, who she already had ties with. But now that's solidified, and she can start dropping these Big Brother people.
Yeah. And it seemed like Leroy and Cam were going to have a hard time getting through this game. And I mean, granted, there's been 4 eliminations and 2 medevacs, as I'll call them. But 6 people are gone, and they're still kicking. And it seems like all their positioning has only gotten better, not worse, as this has gone on. Yeah,
it's crazy to think that happened. But maybe they can pull this off. Maybe both of them can run in this final together. Yeah. It would be insane. But it's looking more and more possible with each passing week.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, I think that about covers it for this week. Hopefully next week we see a female elimination. I want to see the girls duke it out so that I can actually start to get to know some of them a little bit better than what we've seen so far. I feel like it's been a very male-driven show so far. With the females we're getting are great, but I don't want to call it Darrell and partner anymore. I don't want to call it Gabby. This was the most we really got from her. Anything else that we didn't touch on that you wanted to touch on before I wrap this thing up?
Today's daily challenge just shows why I love TJ as a host. Mm-hmm. Like the one-liners he was giving during that challenge, things like, I don't know how much I suck, but I sure know how much you suck. Mm-hmm. And the opposite of good is what you are. Like, that's the best part about TJ. He just calls them out when they are doing nothing. And it's so funny.
It's so good. And I even love when he was like, they were the only pair to finish. And everybody's like, whoa. And he was just like, because Leroy's like, he's just laughing at us. And that had to be so frustrating for him as a host, where it's like, what's our tiebreaker going to be? Like, last one to crash? Like, because it wasn't that far away. So it's not like you can be like, oh, who made it the furthest?
Yeah, it was insane that none of them could fly a remote controlled drone.
Yeah. That's a second challenge, though, where I've been like, why do they put the time limit like that? I mean, it's almost like you got to let people finish, or, who actually kept theirs up in the air the longest. Because what was it? Leo and Gabby made it 25 seconds or something like that. My God.
Yeah, it was bad.
Absolutely insane. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the episode 4 recap of the challenge. It was a fun time as always. Alexa and I are going to be doing some stuff coming up. I don't know. We have some dates on the line here, and I have to actually ask and check with her because I have just been in La La Land here. I'm finally off vacation as of Friday, and my life will start to go back to some sort of normalcy. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at Phil Wood Jr. And why am I giving mine? At Survivor Specialist. Don't follow me. I don't even go on Twitter. I went on Twitter on accident today, and I was like, oh, God, what is going on? What is happening? So don't go on Twitter.
The day to go on Twitter.
I know. My 29th birthday will now live in infamy. Thanks, everybody. But stay safe out there. Everybody, make rational decisions, make smart decisions, make safe decisions, be nice to each other. And hopefully we can all just get through whatever chaos is going on in our world. But more importantly, let's get to next week, right? We will be here next week, though, with the episode 5 recap of the challenge. Until then, I know Alexa and McKenna are still doing the Australian Survivor recaps on Monday nights, so make sure to check into that. I think they just got past the merge, so that'll be fun. And we will have some fun stuff coming up. This is going to be a big year for the Survivor Specialist channel. It really is. It's just a matter of starting to get everything in order, which all begins with me getting out of vacation mode. So keep an eye out for all of that. Follow us on our social media, become a patron, and we will see you next week with another recap of the challenge.